Christa Watson was right. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, join me for today's video. Hi, I'm Jamieson-Hirst of Chatterbox Quilts, and I recently saw Christa Watson do a presentation where she was talking about how she presses her seams when she's piecing. She presses her seams open, and she quilts in the ditch. Oh my gosh, where are the quilt police, right? So I've always been told that that's a no-no. So I had to try this for myself and find out if she was right. Now, if you're not sure who Christa Watson is, she is an author, she's a quilter, she quilts on a domestic sewing machine, she has amazing information, and a couple of books she's written here. One is Machine Quilting with Style, the other was written with Angela Walters, The Ultimate Guide to Machine Quilting, and I have video reviews on both of those books, so check above and below for links to those videos. So Christa's been around for a while and she's very accomplished. So I was really sure she was correct, but I had to find out for myself. So what I did was I took some charm squares and I stitched them together. I just wanted to make a small sample and I pressed my seams open. All right, there they are with the seams pressed open, okay? So very foreign to me to do this, but I managed to do it. And there's our sample. Now, the next thing I did, of course, is I had to sandwich up that little sample. I have some different fabrics here, but I sandwiched it up and I stitched in the ditch as best I could, okay? Because there really isn't a ditch when you do this technique. Now, if you're wondering what a ditch is, when you press your seams to one side, there's several layers of fabric together, and so one side sits higher than the other one. With Christa's technique of pressing the seams open, you don't have that. Now you can still see the seams, obviously, and I did my best to stitch in the ditch. And then I wanted to wash it. So I threw it in the washer, I washed it on hot water, I dried it on high heat, and here's my example. Now don't look at the ripples here. I would normally do more quilting, but in this sample I just was concerned about this stitching in the ditch when the seams were pressed open. And by the way, stick with me to the end of the video because I'm going to explain why you might want to do this with your own quilt projects. So it came out fine. You can see the stitching is on the back here. Everything was okay. Everything stayed together. And if you're wondering what the differences are when you do this technique with kind of the normal way of pressing your seams to one side, I have an example here. So as I mentioned, this is all flat. There's no ditch per se. So this side feels the same as this. They all feel equal as far as the thickness, if you will. There's no bumps like we used to. So in this particular project though, I stitched in the ditch and I actually had pressed all my seams to one side, so there actually is a ditch. So you can see, probably it's easy to feel really, that this side is flatter, lower than the sashing here because I had pressed towards the sashing. So you definitely have the higher side and the lower side, and when you stitch in the ditch, you know, you can use a stitch in the ditch foot and it's a lot easier to find that ditch where you've got a definite kind of bump. Now, I did say I was going to tell you when you might want to use the pressing the seams open and then stitching in the ditch. So before I do that though, I just want to mention you may see an icon below the video that's a heart with a $sign in it. And if you're wondering what that is, it's a super thanks. It's your way to support the Chatterbox Quilts YouTube channel. So you can donate as little as $2 or more to help support my channel. It helps me to get the tools I need to provide these free videos for you. So you can just click on the icon and decide how much you would like to contribute to support my channel, and thank you so much for that support. Now, I told you at the beginning of the video why you might want to press your seams open like this. So let me tell you about some different reasons to do that. Now, you know when you're putting a sample together like this, it's very small of course, but I do have 2 rows here. And typically when you're pressing your seams to the side, you have to remember which way to press them in each row. So for example, the top goes one way, the next one goes in that direction, and you alternate back and forth. When you press your seams flat, and open, I should say, you want to press them flat all the time. When you press them open, you don't have to think about what direction to press your seams in. You don't have to worry about that nesting with the rows. So that's one advantage of doing this. Another advantage is that when it comes to quilting, typically we're using quilting cotton, but if you were using some heavier fabric, let's say you were using wools and piecing them together, when you are pressing your seams to one side and you get that definite bump, that can cause a problem when you're free motion quilting or ruler quilting because your foot maybe get caught on that bump if you've got your foot quite low. So, you know, that's another issue you don't have to worry about if you press your seams open. You don't have to worry about your foot getting caught on that seam when you are quilting. And something else that's a really good idea to always press your seams open in another situation is when you have a lot of converging seams. So if you were doing, say, for example, a whole bunch of half square triangles together and they're all coming together, those seams are coming together in the center, it provides a huge bump there if you're pressing them to one side, even if you circle your seams. So by pressing your seams open, it really helps to reduce that bulk, which again makes it easier when you are actually doing your quilting. So there are times when pressing your seams open work very well, and if you want to stitch in the ditch when they're pressed open, you can definitely do it. It works very well, as you can see from my sample here. There's no issues with doing it. If you're looking for something that's extremely robust, though, if it's a quilt you're going to wash an awful lot, I would probably still stick to the pressing the seams to one side, just because of the fact that you're going to be stitching through that with your seam and also with your quilting. So it makes it just a little bit more robust, I would say. But Christa was right. You can press those seams open and you can stitch in the ditch, and it works perfectly well. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. Now, I've talked about pressing your seams open, and you may have noticed how flat my seams are. Now, if you're wondering how I get them that flat, don't worry. I've got all the information you need in this video here for you to watch next. For more helpful quilting information, please go to my website at www.chatterboxquilts.com.